Good morning. Welcome to Buddha's in Your Landfill. I see it's 9 o'clock from my father's timepiece. Did you watch my last night's It's Martini Time? And I talked about the timepiece and finding our center in time. So I wanted to continue our talk about time. And today I'm really, I just feel compelled to talk about some of my own personal experience because what we're, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing here. And what we're doing here is mapping out and showing the meandering river that we're all on in search for our true nature, which we can call home. Home is not in the future, although we think it is. It's someplace it's not in the past or the future, but it is now. So how do we find our home now, which we can call true nature? How can I find my home in the world now, not tomorrow, not in heaven, or not longing for it in the past, but where is it now, you see? So that's what we're really about. That's what I'm about, is sharing this journey with you to map out the treasure map like Indiana Jones going for the treasure. So let's finish. Keep forgetting to push that chair over. So this is where we left off yesterday, and we were looking at the material world that we all live in and share and think is the real world, and it's kind of like a treadmill where we're going and going and going, but there is always this sense that we're not going anywhere, yet we see, it's kind of like we're on a treadmill with 3D glasses on in a world where we're going and moving and everything, and we feel like we're going somewhere, but there's the sense that we're standing in place. So this timeless center, we talked about yesterday, is kind of like a fountain that bubbles up time instead of being in it. It's kind of like we're on the periphery of the clock with the hands moving around. There's a beginning and an end to time. Yet at the same time, there is a center to the clock that doesn't move. So what we're interested in is this center that doesn't move. So I'm going to share with you today two paths to the center that we're all experiencing in different ways. The first one is the slow path, the gradual path. The other day I was watching Globe Trekker, and they were trying to catch a giant anaconda in the Amazon, and the way they did it was they were barefoot in the waist-deep water, and they would feel the anaconda's tail, and then they would grab the tail, and then they would get 4 or 5 men, and then they would pull this huge anaconda out of the water, and maybe 5 or 6 men holding it up like this, huge thing like that. So looking for our true nature is kind of like going in the everyday world of personality and family and history and that we think is real. And other people don't notice it, but we notice a little something sticky, something wiggling in the earth. And no one else stops, but we stop and we begin to pull it. And Joseph Campbell, in the Hero with 1,000 Faces, he calls this the call to adventure. We hear the call to something unknown within ourselves, and we pull that, okay? And so we gradually begin to pull this giant anaconda that in Indian mythology is called Shakti, that lies at the base of the Kundalini, this creative energy, Shakti. We begin to pull it and we get energy from it, and it's terrifying and exciting. And by pulling it, we follow teachers and we follow we do something spontaneously and meet somebody. Or we graduate, and we don't know where we're going, but it's meandering, but we feel like we're following the scent of something. We're going home. And this is the gradual path that most of us are on. Some of us, however, have a rather dramatic, it's called the sinkhole experience. Right now out in California, they have sinkholes, and suddenly in the everyday world, everything is paved. Right in your neighborhood, everything is cool and calm. Suddenly a sinkhole opens up and a car falls in it. Well, let me describe a sink. I have had both experiences, so I'm talking from experience of the gradual pulling the anaconda out by the tail and the sinkhole experience. The sinkhole experience is a sudden awakening, and I'll share mine with you since it fits into this talk that this investigation we're going. But it was in 1968, and if you remember, well, you don't, maybe you don't remember, but I was teaching high school in 1968, and 1968 was kind of like the time when the cosmic American egg cracked open, and all this energy was coming up, and it was in psychedelic creative music and passion and also violence and assassination and destruction, but it was this energy. This was the Shakti was being pulled up then. And I was teaching school, and as you recall, if you go back in a few of my talks, I'd been in the submarines, and I got out of the submarines in 1960 and went to Old Dominion College and got a degree in English and began to teach in Northern Virginia, in Loudoun County. And it was a very, I was, a lot of my seeking and my questioning and everything was coming to a head. And one day a friend of mine gave me a tape by J. Krishnamurti, who was, I'd never heard of him. It was a recording of him giving a talk. And I went to bed with the earphones on, listening to it. I went to sleep. And I woke up in the morning and I had fallen through a sinkhole. My personality that I thought I had dropped off. And I had fallen into a presence of myself that I immediately recognized, because when I looked in the mirror, I just broke out laughing, and I remember it very distinctly, recognizing my true nature and just laughing. You're here. Finally, you're here. I knew you were here. I knew you were alive. Now you are here. And suddenly, all of the energy that went into maintaining this surface world, my personality in it and the conflicts and all of that was now free energy. And I was fearless, and I had a little motorcycle, and I rode it like Evel Knievel, and I went to school to teach, and the whole hall all the eyes of the students were glowing, and I remember very distinctly seeing this whole, as far as I could see, glowing eyes of consciousness in the students. And I was totally, and I began to teach like Sidney Poitier. I threw the threw the textbook in the trash can, and I began to channel Krishnamurti, and half the class came right down in front and we're taking notes, and the other half of the class was sitting in the back like, whoa, what's he doing? What's going on here? And I began to do yoga asanas spontaneously. I had no idea what yoga was. Stand on my head, sit in the lotus posture, and I began to see everything from within everything. For instance, I pick up Walt Whitman's Sangha myself, and I remember reading the poetry as Walt Whitman wrote it. I was reading the poetry as Walt Whitman was writing it. Or the poetry of T.S. Eliot. Or I picked up the Bible and I was reading the words of Jesus as if I were speaking the words. So there was a collapsing of the separation of self from the object. And this is that center or timeless place where there are no boundaries. And there is no time. There is just now, except you still have time in the sense that you have to get to class and stuff. But there was, and I had no idea what had happened to me. I knew that something unexplainable, unimaginable, unpredictable had happened. And so I felt that, and students begin to be attracted, coming around, and I had one urge. I knew that I had to find a teacher. I had to find a master or a teacher who could help me or tell me or help me or guide me in holding on to this Kundalini. When this energy rises, I mean, it's a tiger in the sense that you are very creative, but it can eat you. You know, so it's a creative, it's a cosmic energy that can suddenly awaken. So anyway, I fell into this, and it lasted. This sinkhole stayed open for a couple of weeks, and then it closed back up. But my life had been mapped from that. From then on, I really went back to this mode here of trying to, well, there was decades of trying to recapture the lost wonder, which is a false path, trying to recapture the past. So then I gave up trying to recapture the lost wonder, and I began to began to slowly pull the Shakti and the true nature out in a slow, more controlled manner, which is really an ongoing practice. You never really arrive anywhere, but the path then becomes straighter and clear, and you become more centered in the energy, and you want to share it. So the sudden sinkhole approach is a curse and a blessing. It's a blessing because it opens up your immediate awareness of true nature, and at the same time, you haven't done the work on the karma of your personality, and it closes back over, or the ego comes back in and gets high on the energy of true nature and becomes another, it's called a spiritual ego. And that's a very hard nut to crack, because you can't it's very difficult to give up spiritual nature because you feel like you have to give up God as well. You know, all right, give up your creativity. Well, you can't give up your creativity. It becomes your life, you know. So it's a Sophie's choice. So it's very difficult to dissolve a spiritual ego. There are two kinds of egos, by the way. There's the material ego, which all of us have in the material world, and this ego believes it will find true nature by getting more stuff. So it's an acquiring, attract more stuff, things and form and relationships and jobs and whatever. So it's becoming true nature by that. The spiritual ego is still looking for true nature, but now it is seeing itself as being special. That the spiritual ego believes it is special, and other people need to be taught. You see, and other people in other words, the spiritual ego is basically just an inflated ego that believes it's superior to the material egos, but it's the same thing. So these two paths, the sinkhole, sudden awareness, sudden awakening, and the gradual, when we start with the slow anaconda tail, pulling the anaconda out of the earth, at some point we will have sinkhole experiences. They can be minor, small, or they can be huge. But the point is that true nature, you know what, these statues in East Asia of these giant Buddhas, you know, and you have to look up, they're these huge beings, you know, or maybe they were buried and you find some, just the top of it, you know, and then you begin to dig away, and gradually this immense statue is unfolded. This basically is a metaphor for our true nature. Our true nature is so great, it's so vast, it's so boundaryless. There are no boundaries to it because there's no separation between your true nature and the world. So there's the feeling in true nature that you are the world and the world is you. Although the world still has other things and whatever, there's still this surface world going on, but at the same time, your center has shifted from being a thing in time to being time itself. That's the center of the clock, you see. So you have time running around here, which is up here, and then you have the center here that is immovable. And this also is what the Buddha is a metaphor for. Everything is a metaphor from this viewpoint here. The Buddha as a metaphor is that he is seated in an immovable spot. The mind does time and the mind does not move the center. When you can sit in that center, the hands of time go around you, but they don't move you, you see. But when we lose the center, now we are in time, like on a treadmill, and time is pushing us around, and we're always trying to find lost center again. So let's stay with this idea that your center and your true nature is within you, and there's a scent to it. There's a smell to it. I was reading some poems by Hafiz, and one of them is called The Scent of Light. The scent of light. So there is light emanating from this, you see. And when we live out here in time, we can catch the scent of light and we'll be attracted to it like the unicorn is attracted to the virgin in the forest. We cannot see it, but we are attracted to it. And when we are captured by that aroma of the light from within, we look crazy to people up here. Why are you going over there? Why are you doing that? It doesn't make sense. You see, this is a relative world up here, right? And it's relative to the almost like a hologram in which we all live in and think is real. But when we are attracted by the scent of light, we're following a different path, and we don't even understand it. We don't understand why we're doing it, and we think something's wrong with us. That something is, I'm not going like other people. I'm not going like the fleet. I'm not going like the herd, you see. Something must be wrong with me. No, you're just attracted by the scent of light, your own light, you see, in your own heart, that's sending up little, and the world is like an egg, you see, and the world will start to crack, and light will creep up into our heart, into our mind, when we think it's out there, but it's coming from within, and we begin to follow it. And it's like a GPS map versus an atlas flat map. On the GPS map, when we log in, your destination is home. Think about this. This is a great metaphor. When you put in home, no matter which way you go, you're going home. And your guide will say, turn left, turn right, and you can't piss off the guide. You can't make him or her mad at you and call you an idiot. The guide just says, turn right, turn left, turn right, very calmly, and no matter which way you go, you're always going home. But on the flat map, there's only one way to go to get home, and if you vary off that, your wife will call you an idiot. Why'd you turn there? Can't you follow the map? You see? So think about that GPS map, and know that you're always going home when you have the intention to go home, and when you want to find your center of light within, which is going to be joyous and creative and warmth and kindness and the feeling of being at home no matter where you are. So I hope you find a Buddha in your landfill today, and I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll continue this journey.